Hello, everyone. My name is Rob, one of the hosts of the Everyday iRacers podcast. On the podcast that I do with Josh, we talk a lot about our rigs, and I've been doing a lot of work on my rig, but we talk about it in audio. I thought I would give a quick picture of what it would look like in pictures. So I put together this YouTube video as my rig tour. So here's my rig, which I've built in two separate distinct units. The first unit we'll talk about, it's the seat and controller and all that kind of stuff. And this is just a circle about it. And it's on rollers, and I can ultimately roll it into this second piece, which is my screens and my roof and a little shelf in the back for my computer. So first we'll talk about this part of the rig. There's my little door that I can kind of open and close. A keyboard tray. I like this keyboard tray because, my nice keyboard, it fell on the floor and broke. So now I have this cheap one, but I just attach it with a magnet or a couple of magnets on that aluminum holder. I put a magnet on the back and a magnet on the keyboard, and then the two of them, there's the magnet on the back. And then the keyboard just sort of sticks there, but I can remove it anytime I want to use it. I also have my safety net hanging there. I have magnets built in, sort of sewn into the top of it, and they click onto my roof where I have magnets attached to the roof as well. So you just sort of click it off and click it on whenever you want to have a safety net up for that added immersion. A couple of transducers in the back, LFE minis, and you can't really see them, but I have a couple underneath my seat as well. So a total of 4 LFE minis. They're older ones, but yeah, they do the trick, and I run them through SimHub. 3D print all these little pieces of my dashboard. Let's see if... So I have this one little unit, a little box that I attach to the 8020. Has a little shelf where I can put a coffee cup or my eyeglasses and that kind of stuff. Another little box that holds my wireless headphone controller unit and a PC panel for volume controls. A little unit right there, which I just have an ignition switch and a starter button. This little box holds my Stream Deck, which is kind of tilted so that it's staring you in the face, and that way you can see all the buttons nicely. And then this part of the dashboard, it needs to get completely redone. I've already stolen various pieces, but so I'm going to redo that part. And an analog sequential shifter and handbrake. I have my version 3 pedals underneath there, and Fanatec Club Sport 2.5 belt-driven wheel. And that's kind of the crux of my equipment. And then on the back here, on the front, I have a shelf which holds everything that is involved with this part of my rig. So all the USB ports and, amplifiers and power supply stuff, it is all just part of this particular unit. And so it has its own power supply, and a little I can move my pedal tray forward and back and my seat forward and back so that other people can get in and experience it. So ultimately, I would take this part of my rig and just slide it underneath my monitors, and I'll show you, this is all you need to plug in to the computer. So the whole unit connects to the computer and everything using, those cables. I have that special corded wrap that you can buy for 20 bucks on Amazon, which is absolutely awesome for cable management. And yeah, that's about the extent of it. So moving over to this part of my rig, triple 32 1440 monitors and the roof that I made. Now, I love my roof. I'm sure we'll talk more about that here. But the back of the system sort of looks like this, has the shelf where I put the computer. I put the computer on this part of my rig because it doesn't vibrate or anything like that. There's not much here. There's a hub for my Philips Hue light. There's a sort of network hub box and another power supply. Inside the roof, there's a lot of wiring. This is kind of how I made my roof. I just used, some 2x4s that I trimmed up and then cut holes in the side to sort of feed cables through it. And then, some wood that I use like a door hole cutter for the speakers because I have two sets of speakers integrated into the roof. I wrapped the bottom of the roof in an Alcantara wrap. And there's the roof, all Alcantaraed up, and then I would cut the speaker holes out. Inside the roof, this is so many wires, so much stuff hidden. It's awesome. I love the hiding of the cables. There's a power supply, two sets of speakers, all of the monitor cabling, the monitor power supplies, the display port cables, my LED lights, and it all gets sort of sealed in there, and then a top that's put on in different pieces so that I can just sort of snap them off and take a look at it. So the monitors, this is it. I mean, there's the DisplayPort cable and the power cable, and it just comes out of the roof. And then I use that cable wrap on it, and they just all the three DisplayPort cables get plugged into the computer. So it's pretty slick and tidy. I love the lack of cables. It really was an inspiration to do this with good cable management. These are just, that's the power supply cable that goes to this power supply. And so it's pretty clean on the cabling side of things. The roof itself, you can, remove those top pieces. You just sort of take off those little caps on the screws. It is hinged. It does move. I wanted to put like some gas sort of struts in there so that it could raise and lower, but to be honest, it's not difficult to get in and out of. And I don't have those gas struts. It's pretty heavy. But I think I'm just going to leave it like this. It doesn't need to sort of go up and down. There's the little caps where the screws, you can take those out if I have a loose cable somewhere on the inside that needs a little management. And while it is heavy, I added this little stopper on my frame to sort of catch and take the weight off of the monitor so that the roof doesn't sit on the monitor. Now I do have like 1/2-inch foam that is put on top of my monitor just to close up any of those little light leaking through it, and it works really, really well. But I did have to update or upgrade my monitor stand. I used like the 4080 instead of the 4040, and that really made it much more rigid and can withstand a lot more weight. I also had to put larger legs on the rig, extending, across the bottom, just to sort of help with all that counterlevered weight. There's some 3D printed pieces just to hold my steering wheels and all that kind of stuff. Now it's kind of hard to see under here. I'm going to try and flick a light on a little bit, but you can see the speakers sort of built into the roof. There's a LED light switch there just to flick the lights on and off. 1 2-meter long Phillips Hue strip built into the roof. And that is synced up to whatever the colors are in the monitor, so it sort of flashes if you're going underneath a shadow, or cast a green hue if you've got lots of grass around you. There are my speakers. I 3D printed these little cups to just stick in there to make the transition from the Alcantara roof to the hole that I cut look a little better. And you can't see the speakers in the front, but there's a set in the front and a set in the back. So here we will take the second unit. So it's removable so that if I want to work on my brakes or something like that, or clean it up, I can just unplug it and slide it in, or slide it out. So here we're just going to push it forward. It's pretty easy. You can do it with one hand while holding a camera in the other hand. And you just sort of roll it forward underneath the monitors. And then we'll flip around the other side, and you can see just how easy it is to hook the two sections up. Now, they both have their own power supplies, so there's nothing to get too worked up about that. A couple of USB plugs which I couldn't kind of figure out which way they went there, but a couple of USB plugs, which are for the hubs, and then that's basically it. Just a couple of USB plugs, and then that whole section of the rig is connected to the computer. And again, I use that cable wrap stuff, which is just awesome. Oh, there's also a couple of little transducer plugs because the transducers are on the seat. So, the rear ones go in the green and the front ones go in the black. And that's it. Good to go. So pretty easy to disconnect and so on. Take the power supply cable. I just wrapped it around there for the time being. Plug it into the wall. So basically 2 plugs for the whole unit. One for the front and one for the seat part. Turn the computer on and away we go. Now, there's been a lot of talk or questions about how you can get in and out of the rig. So here I go. This is me getting into my rig without having to put the, lift the roof or lift it out. It's not complicated. It's not really a big deal. I love the roof. It really does enclose you in, the experience. It immerses you. It makes you feel more like you're in a car. And that's just me sort of showing you in a few different angles how you get in and out. Not a big deal. I think I recorded one more video of getting in and getting out. Now you can see the LED light casting the shadow on the rig monitor. You don't really notice that when you're in there and you're driving. It's also not that bright when you're driving, so it's not really a big deal. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that quick rig tour. If you have any questions, you can toss them down in the comments section here on this YouTube channel, and I'll be sure to read them and get back to you. But hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it provides a little bit of inspiration to work on your own rig and to make a really immersive project. I mean, I was definitely inspired by Stellion of Race Beyond Matter, and among other sort of YouTubers, and I love it. It's a big part of the hobby, not just the racing, but the do-it-yourself component and learning how to solder and all that kind of stuff. So thanks very much, and look forward to hearing your comments in the comments below.